Good morning, everyone. So I'm Lachlan Jacobson from Flow Power's business development team. Today I'm going to talk about some of the ways that we work with manufacturers to reduce their energy costs. Unlike Peter and Maria, I'm very much going to be focused on the energy side of your procurement. So Flow Power, we are a licensed retailer in the national electricity market. And the core premise of our business is that there's a lot of value in connecting your organisation with market signals. Currently, the national electricity market in Australia is very one-sided. Most users are on fixed rate tariffs. That means they pay the same price for electricity no matter how short supply is. This leads to inefficiencies, increased volatility and increased expenses, particularly as we introduce more renewable energy into the system. Before we became a retailer, we were actually an energy management business that started over 20 years ago when the national electricity market was created. And we work with large energy users to find savings and help them navigate the complexities of that market. We've retained that analytical and consultative approach as we've become a retailer, working with businesses to develop a wholesale strategy that's tailored to their needs and meets their financial and sustainability objectives. We don't run a trading desk. All of our pricing structures are very transparent and back-to-back. And we have developed our own software and hardware solutions which are manufactured and developed here in Victoria. More recently, we're now owned by OP Trust, a Canadian $20 billion pension fund, which has given us a lot more ability to expand our product range and scale our business to meet our customers' needs. So just honing in on the wholesale aspect of our business, this is the historic price trail in Australia, looking at the underlying wholesale energy market. And what you can see is that the 15 years leading up to 2017, average prices were very low. So for most companies, you could run a fixed rate tender every couple of years and get access to prices in the 4 to 5 cent range. There's a little bit of a tabletop during the carbon tax period from 2012 to 2015. But besides that, prices remained very stable and very low. Everything changed when Hazelwood closed. So from 2017 onwards, we've seen a 200 to 300% increase in those markets. So manufacturers, as they roll off what was a bit of a stable strategy that didn't require a lot of engagement, have been faced with 200 to 300% increases in their prices. Unfortunately, Hazelwood closing down coincided with the LNG trains coming online, so we've got more expensive gas. A lot of reasons why prices are very high. As Peter said, 2018 could go down as the most expensive prices in Australian history. On top of that, you've got a political and regulatory environment that remains very uncertain, to say the least, which is making the whole situation a lot more complex for businesses to navigate. However, it's not all bad. We have got an abundance of renewable energy coming into the grid and providing new supply at lower prices. We've also got alternatives to traditional fixed rate contracting, and also new technology, which is giving energy users new access to different ways to manage this risk and create value. Honing in on the renewable energy opportunity for a second, as Peter mentioned, a lot of businesses look at on-site renewables as a starting point. It's visible. There's a lot of companies that are offering solutions, and I guess it's quite a clear value proposition. You put a system on your site, it reduces the need to draw energy from the grid, and you're replacing a variable cost with a fixed cost to repay the capital investment. However, there's limitations. You could have multiple sites. You could have leased premises where the tenure of the lease is shorter than the payback for these systems. And it's also capital intensive. For some businesses, borrowing money to put in a system like this is not really feasible. Also introduces the businesses to risk around construction and also the production of the facilities. How do you know they're going to deliver what it says on the way through with the contracting? Contrasting this with off-site generation or power purchase agreements, PPAs, which is an area of interest at the moment. These projects benefit from economies of scale. They're large systems using the best available technology, and they're generally sited where there's excellent solar and wind resources. They're also financed using structured finance solutions that gives them high levels of gearing, really low cost of capitals. Because they have minimal operating costs, getting cost of capital down is key to actually be able to deliver energy at a low price. Sophisticated design and delivery to make sure that the projects are actually executed well and deliver as they're designed to. and generally they give businesses the opportunity to contract the electricity that's produced, but also the environmental certificates that are generated by these projects as well. Key downsides are they don't actually give you the opportunity to reduce your network expenditure, and there's also an incredibly complex contractual scenario. Power purchase agreements, generally a stack of paper about this thick, and for companies that are entering this for the first time, there's a lot of information asymmetry. You're negotiating with people that do this every day, and it can be a really big strain on internal resources. Despite these challenges, Flow Power saw this as a real interesting opportunity for Australian businesses, because there's really good strategic alignment between project developers and large energy users in Australia. Generally, the investors in these projects are not the major retailers. They're usually quite typically pension funds that are looking to invest in infrastructure assets and generate a nice steady return for their investors on the other side. So they're generally interested in getting certainty around revenue that gives them a reasonable return on equity, rather than taking market exposure and getting outsized returns for a short period of time. And particularly with our manufacturing businesses that we talk to, there's good alignment there. Removing themselves from this really volatile contracting cycle and being able to access low price energy for longer periods of time is really important for businesses, particularly when they've got to make big capital investment decisions that have got longer term paybacks as well. So essentially this led to the key product that we created in 2017, which we call the Virtual Generation Agreement. So essentially we're trying to take the best aspects of renewable contracting and making it simpler and more cost-effective for businesses to access. We've got a full-time renewable energy procurement team. They come from a project finance background and they know this industry really well. And we've managed to secure wind and solar energy offtakes all around the national electricity market. We only source this energy to make it available to our customers. So when we're working with a company on a renewable energy solution, we'll analyse their load profile to understand what shape is going to be the best fit for renewable projects. And generally we'll recommend a combination of wind and solar energy, which provides really good alignment to their demand profile. Peter had some examples during his presentation of where solar can sometimes be a poor match for companies, particularly continuous manufacturers. So generally combining wind and solar energy gives you a much smoother demand profile and a much better fit for the way that you use energy. Besides the load matching, this product allows you to aggregate all of your load in a specific state and give you a state-based energy solution. And we make this available using streamlined contracts. So essentially it's a schedule to your standard retail arrangement, which passes through the key commercial terms of these projects to our customers. And then it essentially just becomes another line item on your monthly electricity invoice. These are all made available with long-term fixed prices with no escalation. And you also get a number of contractual protections. As I mentioned before, where you actually have the infrastructure on your site, it exposes you to risks around production and construction. With these projects, if they fail to deliver beyond minimum generation thresholds, you actually get cash paid out from the assets to make you whole. So it's a number of advantages to contracting from these larger sites as opposed to building your own. Following on from particularly a lot of what Maria was talking about, we see power purchase agreements in combination with demand management as a really good way to access savings in the current market. And essentially the customers that we look after that are spending the least on electricity, this is the strategy that they're employing. The benefits of, a renewable contracting strategy as a starting point is it doesn't actually require demand response to access value straight away. And I guess for many of the reasons that Maria was talking about before too, demand response is very much a journey that we work on with our customers. Typically when we raise it initially, the first answer is that we can't do any of that, we can't shut things down. But it's really about working through to understand what they can do, what load they can shift around, and optimising, the balance between, saving money on energy and ensuring that you're not cutting across your core business. Our demand response is very much focused on the wholesale energy side, so it can be a straight spot pass-through contract, and any load shedding you do to high-price events delivers you direct savings. We also participate in RERT programs across the eastern seaboard, so That's additional cash payments to customers that can shed load during critical peak periods during summer. And we also have some tailored hedging products that give customers access to several features of a fixed price contract, but they can still do demand response to get further reductions on what that means in terms of their energy bill. Honing in on a specific case study, this is a new customer that we've onboarded recently, and we've started doing some desktop analysis to look at what demand response could look like for them. So this chart essentially stacks up a full year of half-hour energy intervals and what their price was for each of those half-hour intervals. And it's obviously stacked right-hand side is the most expensive intervals that they're exposed to. So essentially, across the most expensive 5 hours of the year, that accounted for 6% of their total energy spend. And if we expand that window to the most expensive 15 hours, that actually accounted for 10% of their annual spend. And that's quite typical for what we see in wholesale prices. It's not like a normal financial market. Typically when prices go up and they get very high, the market responds, more generation comes online, and prices tend to go back down fairly quickly. So this type of analysis is quite typical when we start talking about what a demand response strategy could look like. You're essentially talking about hours across the year, delivering a further 1 cent a kilowatt hour saving for your business. And just finally, I want to leave you with this is a specific case study. This is, I guess, probably right at the outer edge of what is actually possible with a wholesale strategy. This is a customer that we've had for 10 years. So while they haven't been involved in a traditional fixed rate contracting situation for a number of years, the reference price based on their load shape for what they would be paying if they contracted across 2018 is a price of 12 cents a kilowatt hour as an anytime rate. By moving directly to wholesale procurement as opposed to using financial hedging or fixed prices, that delivered an immediate 1.6 cent saving based on wholesale traditionally being cheaper than the associated financial derivatives. And then when we overlaid that with our virtual generation agreement, the fixed price renewable energy, that reduced their spend across the year to 5.8 cents a kilowatt hour. So you're already tracking at less than half the prevailing wholesale market or the prevailing fixed rate market by integrating renewables. And on top of that, by being able to respond to the really expensive high price events in Victoria, they're able to get further savings, and they ended up paying a price of 4.4 cents a kilowatt hour across 2018 in Victoria. So this is not necessarily where our customers will be able to go to on day one, but it shows you what's possible with the level of engagement in your energy strategy and looking beyond traditional procurement. Thank you.